Have you ever met a woman whose very presence unsettled something deep inside you, not through her words, not through her appearance, but through an energy you could not name? You felt as though she saw through you, not with judgment, but with a recognition that pierced every mask you had ever worn. Such women carry what Jung called a superior feeling function, a spiritual intelligence invisible to most eyes, yet undeniable to the soul. They walk quietly among us, often unnoticed by those who live only on the surface. But for those attuned, their presence is unforgettable. You sense the calm gravity around them, the way they do not get swept into trivial dramas, the way they listen as though they are listening not only to you, but to something older, deeper, eternal. This intelligence is not earned through books or degrees. It is inherited from both pain and mystery, a wisdom that emerges when the unconscious has been wrestled with and integrated. The first of these invisible traits is energetic literacy, the ability to read what is not said. While others hear words, she feels vibration. At a dinner table, she notices the tension in a couple's silence more loudly than their polite conversation. At work, she senses deception wrapped in charm. In friendships, she feels grief behind laughter. She is a living barometer of authenticity. This gift often comes at a cost, for to see truth is also to see lies. To feel deeply is also to sense the emptiness of pretense. Such women may be called too sensitive, too intense, or even paranoid by those who cannot perceive what they perceive. Yet time proves their intuition precise. They inherit this wisdom through ancestral lines, grandmothers who had to read danger in footsteps, mothers who knew survival meant sensing moods before words. What once was defense now blooms into spiritual intelligence. And so, these women carry both blessing and burden. They cannot unsee what they see, cannot unfeel what they feel. They walk the tightrope between knowing too much and pretending not to know. To be her is to be forever aware and forever misunderstood. But this awareness is the first mark of her invisible intelligence, the mark that separates her from a world content with illusions. The second invisible trait reveals itself in a woman's relationship with what Jung called the collective unconscious. For most, dreams vanish like smoke upon waking. Synchronicities are brushed aside as coincidence, and intuition is dismissed in favor of logic. But for her, these whispers are not background noise. They are the very language of her soul. She dreams in symbols that feel more real than waking life. A river overflowing, a bird with broken wings, a locked door that suddenly opens. Later, she notices that these dreams begin to echo in reality, meeting a stranger by a river the following week, stumbling upon a painting of a winged creature in a friend's home, receiving an unexpected opportunity that feels like a key. What others dismiss, she decodes. This trait is not about fortune telling or superstition. It is the capacity to listen to the unconscious with reverence, to treat every symbol as alive. She understands that reality is not flat, that beneath events there are archetypal patterns shaping them. A relationship is never just a relationship, it is also a dance of the anima and animus. A career shift is not just ambition, it is the hero's journey unfolding. A conflict with a friend may be the eternal struggle between shadow and light. Because of this, life often feels orchestrated around her, as if she is both participant and witness in a story written by something greater. She notices repeating numbers on clocks, overhears words in passing that answer questions she hadn't yet spoken aloud, or finds herself in the right place at the right time to offer comfort to someone who secretly needed it. What others call coincidence, she experiences as synchronicity, the psyche and cosmos woven in dialogue. This connection grants her a kind of navigation system that appears magical to outsiders. While others plan meticulously, she seems guided by invisible threads, arriving exactly where she needs to be. She trusts inner signs more than external advice. If her body resists, she listens. If her dream warns her, she takes note. And more often than not, her trust in the invisible proves wiser than the most rational strategies. But this gift isolates her too. How does one explain to friends that you turned down a job because a dream told you so? How do you tell someone you ended a relationship because the energy felt off, when on the surface everything looked fine? To many, her life appears strange, unexplainable. Yet to her, it is the most natural thing in the world, to let the unconscious lead where the conscious cannot see. This is her second invisible mark, that she does not walk blind in daylight, but guided by the lantern of symbols, synchronicities, and dreams. To her, the universe is not random, it is alive, conversing with her in whispers only she has learned to hear. The third invisible trait is not easily understood in a world addicted to noise, constant interaction, and endless distraction. It is her capacity to embrace what Jung called sacred solitude. To the untrained eye, she may seem withdrawn, too quiet, or distant. Friends may accuse her of disappearing. Family may worry that she is isolating. Yet her solitude is not escape. It is alchemy. It is the chosen silence where her soul breathes, where the sediment of daily life settles and the clear water of truth rises. In solitude, she is not lonely. She is in dialogue with herself, with her unconscious, with something greater that speaks only in stillness. She journals words that feel not written but received. She meditates until the chatter dissolves into a deeper voice. She paints, writes, prays, or simply sits by a window, watching light move across the floor, feeling her own pulse align with the rhythm of eternity. Jung wrote that individuation demands withdrawal from the collective. Without retreat, one cannot distinguish the authentic self from the voices of parents, partners, culture, or society. These women instinctively know this. They protect their solitude as fiercely as others protect their reputation. Because in solitude, masks fall away. In solitude, truth returns. But this gift comes with misunderstanding. Others may feel abandoned by her need for space. They may misinterpret her silence as rejection, her privacy as coldness. Yet she knows her depth cannot survive constant exposure. Just as a seed must rest in dark soil before it can sprout, so must her spirit rest in silence before it can bloom again in the world. Sacred solitude also sharpens her perception. When she steps back into the collective, she carries insights no group could have given her. Her words land differently because they are born of reflection rather than reaction. Her presence calms others because it has been tempered in stillness. Have you noticed how certain people drain you while others leave you feeling lighter simply by being in their company? This woman is the latter, not because she tries to heal, but because she has learned to be whole in solitude. Her energy is replenished in silence, and when she returns, she brings that wholeness with her. In this way, her solitude is not selfish but sacred service. It allows her to offer to others what they cannot find in themselves, a reminder of inner peace. And though she walks alone at times, she never walks empty. Solitude for her is not absence, it is communion. This is her third invisible mark, that she does not fear being alone. She knows solitude not as punishment, but as a holy ground where soul and self meet. The fourth invisible trait is her ability to transform suffering into wisdom. Most people either run from pain, numb it, or become consumed by it. But she has learned another path, the path of alchemy. Jung called this the transcendent function, the capacity to hold tension between opposites until something new is born. This woman does not merely endure her suffering, she descends into it, faces it, allows it to carve her open. She has known heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and loneliness. She has sat at the bottom of nights where the silence felt merciless. Yet instead of letting pain harden her into bitterness, she allows it to soften her into compassion. This is not weakness, it is the highest strength. For to stay open while hurting is the most radical act of all. She understands what the wounded healer archetype embodies, that our greatest authority comes not from what we have escaped, but from what we have survived and integrated. Her scars do not disappear. They remain visible, yet radiant, like kintsugi pottery, where brokenness is filled with gold. She has learned that wholeness is not the absence of fracture, but the presence of meaning within it. Pain, for her, is not wasted, it becomes raw material for transformation. Have you noticed how some people, when you share your struggles with them, rush to fix, to advise, to explain away? Yet, when you speak to her, she simply listens. She does not try to erase your suffering because she has learned that pain is a teacher. She sits with you in silence that feels more healing than words. She carries her own darkness so openly that your darkness feels less shameful in her presence. This is the fruit of her alchemy: compassion without codependency, strength without hardness, wisdom without superiority. She has become a mirror for others, showing that it is possible to descend into the underworld and return with treasures. Her pain has not broken her, it has initiated her. Where others see endings, she has learned to see beginnings. Where others see curses, she has found hidden gifts. And in this, she embodies the ancient rhythm of death and rebirth, the eternal cycle that Jung recognized as essential to individuation. This is her fourth invisible mark, that she turns wounds into wisdom, suffering into service, and darkness into light, not because she was spared from pain, but because she chose to let pain transform her rather than define her. The fifth invisible trait is her mastery of what Jung called therapeutic presence. While most people rely on words to explain themselves, she communicates something far deeper without speaking at all. When she enters a room, the atmosphere shifts, not because of any effort to command attention, but because of the quality of her being. People instinctively lower their voices, breathe more slowly, or feel inexplicably calmer in her company. This is not charisma, not charm, not performance. It is presence, an energy born from inner integration. She has learned that silence can be more eloquent than speech, that listening can heal more deeply than advice, that simply being there, fully, without distraction, without judgment, can give another person the safety they have sought all their lives. This gift did not arrive without struggle. She knows what it means to feel unseen, unheard, dismissed. Her sensitivity once made her a sponge for others' chaos, but through years of shadow work, solitude, and suffering, transformed into wisdom. She has become grounded enough to hold space without losing herself. Now, when someone comes to her with their story, she does not rush to interrupt with solutions. She listens with her whole body, eyes, breath, heart open. She allows pauses. She allows silence. And in that silence, people often find their own answers rising to the surface. This is the paradox of her presence. Though she says less, she communicates more. People leave her company not with advice to memorize, but with a strange feeling of having been truly seen. Perhaps for the first time, Jung wrote that the psyche heals not by being instructed, but by being met. She embodies this truth. Her presence itself becomes medicine, her silence a sanctuary. Even her gestures, the way she places a hand on your shoulder or simply holds your gaze, carry an unspoken language that tells you, you are not alone, you are not broken, you are enough. It is easy to mistake this as passivity, but in reality, it is mastery. Anyone can speak, few can embody. She does not try to convince others of her wisdom, she lives it, and that embodiment speaks louder than words ever could. This is her fifth invisible mark, that her silence heals, her presence teaches, and her being itself is a form of language. She does not persuade, she radiates. The sixth invisible trait is her unshakable sovereignty, the way she belongs fully to herself before belonging to anyone else. In a world that teaches women to bend, to please, to mold themselves into acceptability, she has chosen a rarer path, authenticity over approval. This sovereignty is not defiance for its own sake. It is not rebellion born from bitterness. It is the quiet strength of someone who has walked through illusion after illusion and discovered that losing others is not as costly as losing herself. Jung spoke of individuation as the process of becoming whole, separating the authentic self from the borrowed masks of culture, family, and society. This woman has undertaken that work. She has stripped away the persona that once made her digestible. She has faced the shadow that once frightened her into silence. She has integrated light and dark until what remains is something unshakably true. Because of this, she cannot be manipulated by flattery, nor destroyed by rejection. Approval no longer seduces her, and disapproval no longer wounds her. She listens, yes, but her compass points inward. This is why her presence unsettles those who have never learned to stand on their own center. People sense they cannot sway her with guilt, nor bind her with expectation. Some will admire this, others will resent it, but she does not live for either reaction. Her sovereignty also transforms her love. She does not cling because she does not fear being alone. She does not perform because she no longer needs to prove her worth. She loves as an equal, not as someone begging to be chosen. And this makes her rare in relationships, both magnetic and intimidating. Have you ever noticed how people project onto those who stand in their power? Some call her difficult, intense, or uncompromising. Yet these are words spoken by those who mistake sovereignty for arrogance. The truth is simpler. She has stopped betraying herself for belonging. And this is perhaps the highest form of spiritual intelligence, living as though one's soul is non negotiable. She is not above the world, nor outside it. She is simply rooted in herself, aligned with the deeper order of life, and unwilling to bend where bending would break her essence. This is her sixth invisible mark, the sovereignty that comes when a woman chooses wholeness over approval, truth over comfort, and soul over survival. When you look at her, you may not see wealth, status, or fame. She may not fit society's image of power or beauty. Yet if you look closely, you will notice something harder to name, a hidden crown she wears, forged not of gold, but of experience, suffering, solitude, and truth. Each of her six invisible traits is a jewel in this crown. Her energetic literacy allows her to see through masks, keeping her aligned with authenticity. Her dialogue with the collective unconscious guides her steps with synchronicity and symbol. Her sacred solitude nourishes her soul in silence, granting her clarity the world cannot give. Her alchemy of suffering transforms wounds into wisdom, shadow into service. Her language of presence offers healing without words, reminding others that they, too, are whole. And finally, her sovereignty of spirit anchors her life in truth, refusing to betray her essence for approval. These 6 traits do not make her superior, they make her whole. They do not exempt her from pain, they teach her how to walk through it with grace. They do not guarantee her ease in relationships, they ensure that her relationships will always be rooted in truth. Carl Jung believed that the individuated person becomes a vessel of the self, the deeper center of the psyche that is both personal and universal. This woman, by embodying these invisible traits, becomes just such a vessel. She is not simply an individual, she is a bridge between the seen and unseen, the personal and the archetypal, the human and the divine. This is why, in her presence, others feel stirred in ways they cannot explain. She awakens something dormant in them, a longing to be as whole, as real, as sovereign as she is. She does not teach this through preaching, she teaches it by living. And so she walks among us quietly, carrying her invisible crown. Few will recognize it, fewer still will honor it, but those who do will never forget her, for she is proof that true power is not in what is seen, but in what is carried silently within. This is the final invisible mark of women with high spiritual intelligence, that their very existence becomes a light not to blind, but to remind others of the hidden radiance within themselves.